R9 280X Sapphire. Again, I got a bunch of these. And my daughter went through and helped me test them, and she marked the ones that were good, marked the ones that were bad. This was a bad one. Don't know why, what's wrong with it, but we're gonna figure it out. A bunch of the other videos I got, it's all bad fans. Cards are fine, fans are bad. Because the fans on these are garbage. Great card, horrible fans. Okay. Oh yeah, that fan is definitely screwed up. This fan, it might work. But let's see if we can get the card to come up at least. So we'll go ahead and plug it up to my little test bench over here. That's it's off camera, but it's basically just a well, actually it's an ASRock Pro BTC piece of junk Celeron. But I have Ubuntu, and I have a little test application that I've been testing these cards with just to prove that they'll throw out some FPS and run for, at least a period of time to prove to you that the cards are functional. Here we go. There's power, and so I have a little riser card that I've been plugging in just to make it easy to test these things. At least to see if they'll show a screen. When I actually run the test, I'll plug the card into the motherboard so all the PCI lanes are working. But for now, because I know this card is going to give me some problems, I will go ahead and plug it in off the motherboard. Plug in the trusty HDMI cable, which I constantly forget, and then I go, card doesn't work. No, card doesn't work very well if you don't plug in the monitor cable. Okay, I think we're good there. Everything's plugged in. So let's turn the power on and turn on the picture-in-picture so you can see the desktop. And then let's turn the machine on. Let's see what we get. Wow, that crummy fan on the left here, this one, is actually spinning. I'm going to replace it. It's garbage. This one's turning slow too, so these are both going to get replaced. I'm going to have to buy more fans, because I have a bunch more cards where probably they all have the same problem. Do we have a screen? Oh yeah, we got a screen. So yeah, it looks like Ubuntu's going to boot. Nice noise, huh? Wouldn't you love to put that in your system? Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, so Ubuntu's going to boot up. That's great. So what we're going to do is take this card apart again and replace the fans and replace the thermal paste, and then we'll run the test again, make sure it all works. This card's serial number is, and I know it's hard to read because I don't have a zoomed in thing. That's okay. It's A1404 quadruple 08399. That's the one we're working on. Okay. And this is I don't know how many I've done now. 7, 8, something like that. Getting pretty fast at it. And definitely, they do not want to crack open. They need a little persuasion. Don't want to bend the board. And at some point, it just releases. There we go. It's like if you continue to kind of hold it without like bending the board excessively, then I guess all these thermal pads release or whatever, and then it comes off a couple times. So this pad here never wants to release. This pad, it seldomly does this. Yeah, that's probably okay. So most of the time it sticks to the heatsink. So anyway. This thermal paste is definitely hard, so that needs to be replaced for sure. And then my other bit, smaller bit. And, oh, nice piece of insect there. What is that? It's just tape or something. All right. We have junk fans. I'll very gently take these out. So as not to crack these little tabs, which are fairly flimsy. And then the fans just dump. Ah, look at that. You can just tell how crummy those fans are. Or how used up. I mean, you know, crummy, or maybe they're just used. Because, you know, again, these cards get hot and the fans run at a decent speed to keep the cards cool. So, you know, they just wear out, I guess. But again, I've had these cards for years. So, you know, I don't know how long your fans last in whatever cards you have, but that seems to be about the lifespan of these cards, or at least of the fans, I mean. So yeah, that fan's trash. And this fan, well, you know, let's have a look at this fan. Yep, that's a magnetic ring, I guess. Or let's see. Oh yeah, it's a magnetic ring. And then, you know, you basically got electromagnets, and, you know, I guess they, you know, pulse their magnetic field, and that's what ultimately causes the fan to turn. It's a pretty simple device. You know, I guess this bearing, I don't know. I don't know what the bearing part is. This little piece obviously fits in here. Kind of curious though as to what it is that causes these things to fail. Oops, I just snapped something. Interesting. Don't really know what the failure mode is on why these things fail. Obviously, it has something to do with that bearing. But anyway, there you go. That's what's in these fans. Not much to it. Okay. That's definitely new. So if you've been watching all these old videos that do the same thing over and over, I actually hadn't cracked open a fan, so you got to see that. Actually, I got to look more carefully and see what the failure mode is. And I'm kind of curious now. Anytime something like that happens, I'm like, well, why is that failing? What is the problem? Because usually, well, when these fans fail, it's both of them are bad, or the other one's on the verge. So when I've been replacing them, I replace all the fans, both of them. Even if both fans are or one of the fans seems to be okay, I just wind up replacing both. Also, just because these fans are in a pair, and because one has got this long wire with the other connector on it, that goes on the one side of the card, and the other fan is got the shorter wire, and they don't have plugs, so these wires are not interchangeable. They're just directly soldered. So these are kind of in a set. So it just makes sense to just keep the set together, I guess. The fans are not that expensive. And since you have it apart and you're replacing the thermal paste anyway, just, go for broke. Replace them both. Especially if someone's going to buy one off of me, I definitely don't want to sell them something that's broken. It's just so many scammers in the world. Life is too short. Some people get their kicks from that, think they're getting away with something. I just much rather I don't know, make it right. Some people can sleep well, taking advantage of others. I would just much rather sleep well at night knowing that I did not do something like that. Oh, wait, did I put this on backwards? No, that's good. Now, I am selling these. I got a website. You can go on there, send me a form. The price is posted. I'm not going to say what it is because I might change it if they don't sell. But I'm in no hurry to sell these. But I do want to get rid of them. I don't need them anymore. But I am, I'm not gonna offer money back guarantees or any of that nonsense because I'm going to all the trouble to make these videos so that you see that they work. So because again, people take them, break them, whatever, and then I've got the hassle of having to accept them back and whatnot, and I'm just not going to go through that. So it's buyer beware. You're going to buy it, and I'm not going to take it back if you tell me it doesn't work, because you can see it, working here in the video. So it leaves my place. It's got new fans, new paste. I've plugged it up. I've run some tests, and as far as I'm concerned, it's working when it left my place. So there is that. So that's done. Let me go ahead and reattach these things here. Try to keep it in frame. I keep pulling it close to me. thing I have the hardest time with is getting that wire, getting both of these wires to go into that peg slot. Okay, after much tribulation, I finally got those wires seated. Most definitely that was a pain. I'm not exactly sure why, but anyway, it's done. Okay. Okay. Get some paper towels. Okay, let's get the gunk off of here. The dried thermal paste gunk. Yeah, look at that. Let's get some isopropyl alcohol after that without getting the gunk everywhere. Okay. And here's our board. And by the way, I didn't really inspect it, so let's go ahead and look. Now this is interesting. I do see some, I don't know what that is. Those resistors look a little strange. So I do have a microscope. It doesn't work very well, but I will bring the microscope over and do some inspection and mix the video into this so that we can look at what those are. I'm not quite sure if those are good or bad, but just my naked eye, that something looks a little strange there. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this off. I mean, the board came up, although I don't know if it came up. We're certainly going to test it anyway, but yeah, those resistors look a little strange. They are in the neighborhood of where this crossfire connector is. I will say that I never used the crossfire capability, so it's a little unknown to me why those might be looking a little strange. But we will have a look. Okay, got some of these capacitors on this card that where the serial number ends in 8399. Again, the card came up okay, but when I was looking at it, these had some capacitors. I think they're capacitors. I think it begins with C. That didn't look so good, and so I got a little microscope out. Now, bear with me. This microscope's a piece of junk. But if I put some light on it, if I can get some light on it decently, then they kind of do show up. So yeah, those capacitors, they start with C. Those definitely do not look good. And, you know, I can see a little brown. It's kind of hard to show in the light here, but oh yeah, just definitely those things blew up. So I'm gonna have to go look and see what those things are and replace them. You know, I don't know what they power. All right, so I have the this board that's where I've discovered that the capacitors around the memory. I believe this is the well, certainly power supply for either the memory or the memory controller. I think it's the memory controller, and we've actually got these. Certainly, these two capacitors, 876 and 877, are blown, and the one 879, it's a bit questionable. I'm probably going to take it off as well. And then there are these other two adjacent to it over here as well that have the same problem. So a lot of blown capacitors. Not sure the cause, but I'm going to go ahead and put some solder on here, and this is a leaded solder. And so I'm going to go ahead and try to get the melting temperature lowered on these capacitors. This tip may not have enough juice to heat this up. We shall see. I think these are sitting on a ground plane, so it makes it more difficult to get heat into this board. And if it bridges together, I don't really care. In fact, probably is beneficial if it bridges together. That's kind of a clump. And you know, you hear my soldering iron complaining over there. Because I got the heat cranked up and it seems to want to whine and cry a lot for some reason. All right, so let's do the other side, which may be more difficult now. Yeah, it's definitely going to be, well, let me flip around my grip on the iron here, do this lefty. And when I see Richard doing this on Learning Electronics Repair, he's got a big sort of chunky tip, which is probably correct for this kind of work, but I don't have one. Flip side though is that, oh, there we go, is that, you know, so these components are so small that I'm just not sure how a big chunky tip is supposed to work. Now what I want to do ultimately is use hot air. Yeah, there we go. I want to use hot air to get these components off. All right, let's see if we can get a little flux in here. Got a brand new tube of Amtech flux, or at least it says Amtech. It says 100% genuine. All right. We'll go with that. All right, I think I've got this board at least not close to where it's going to melt anything on my desk or whatnot. Got it oriented and got it better in focus. So let's turn the hot air on and see if we can get these capacitors off of here. I got my hot air on 400 and on kind of medium-high air. Maybe I need full air, but we'll kind of see what this does. That's good. There's one. Try to get this solder blob off of here. And I'll have to get the wick on it. Hopefully I don't have a component under there that I just trashed. I'm really surprised that this came off so easy. Well, this capacitor seems to be welded on the board, very similar to what happened on Richard's video. Oh, there we go. Oh. I'm likely to blow up this capacitor, and I don't want to do that. Oh, there we go. Okay, well, I must admit that was easier than I expected. Okay, let's go in and clean these solder blobs up here. There we go. And I'll go in for one more cleaning, see if I can make this a little better. Oh, there we go. That looks better, save for this one pad right here. That is, of course, by that capacitor. Oh, did I lift that one pad in the middle? At the end of the day, it's probably not a huge deal. I'll just bridge one of the capacitors, you know, just bridge one side to the other with a blob, and, you know, it's probably okay. Got a little aggressive. I didn't really think I was pressing that hard, but yeah. So let me see what side power plane that's on, just for grins. It's ground on this end. This is 12 volts on this end. Let me just do yeah, that's unfortunate, but live and learn. Okay, so there's these two other capacitors. These capacitors right here, this one and this one, 95 and 98. Those capacitors are dead as well. At least they look burned. So they need to come off. And, you know, I think maybe I'll just put some flux on there and just throw caution to the wind and just kind of go in there and try it. I think that's what I'm going to do. Let's set this on medium air. I think I really needed as much last time. I'm going to turn it down to 385. Yeah, set this on 5. This is a quick 975 DW, by the way, so it's a decent hot air machine. All right. Not even sure I need that much hot air. I'm going to kind of turn it down. Definitely don't want to come off. Well, you know, my technique of putting some solder on the other ones probably is going to be required here in order to lower the melt temperature, perhaps, because I definitely do not want to get that switch hot. So I guess we will go do that, because the other ones sure seem to come off pretty easy. So maybe I had the technique right in the first place. Of course, I can't get my tip in there very easily because it's conical. Oh, did it come off? I think it did come off. Or it came off in chunks. Yeah, it did come off. Huh. Okay. Hopefully I didn't damage the pad. It's kind of hard to see because it's a little dark. I think I'm going to turn my heat down a little bit. Oh, it just came right off. I don't know. Is that gunk? Flux? I'm trying. It's very difficult to see. I'm going to get some light on there and see if I can see that a little better. And I think that's the ground side again. I'm going to put a multimeter just to see what side that is, just for grins. Not that it really matters. Well, I guess it does if I have to run a jumper, but. And I'm sorry, I have the multimeter off camera, so I don't have a good camera to point at it at this point. Yeah, that's the ground side, the side that looks like it's damaged. The other side is, what is this going to? Oh, it would help if I set it on ohms. Okay, so this side here is ground. And that side there appears to be ground as well. Yes, that's ground. This side here then is reading, oh, lots of ohms, mega ohms. Mega ohms. So what is this reading now? Interesting, reading lots of K, so I'm guessing, let me see here. Mega ohms, actually, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, that's ground, and then this side is the plus 12 volt side, I suppose. Yeah. I'm going to double check just to see if that's plus 12. Yeah, so when I go to the pin 1 on the, or the N pin, I don't know if it's pin 1, but the N pin on the graphics card, I get no resistance, so I know that that's the 12 volt side. Okay, this is the board that had the blown capacitors around the memory controller power supply. So these capacitors here These three were blown. Well, two of them were blown. This one, I couldn't really tell if it was or not. It didn't look great, so I took it all off anyway. This pad was lifted on this one right here. And as you can see, I just bridged over the solder blob here. So, you know, it's fine. I toned it out. You know, these are all just filter capacitors. One side goes to 12 volts, one side goes to ground. So if they're all blobbed together, it doesn't really matter as long as they are touching, one of them's touching the board. And then over here, over here, these two were also very badly burned and charred. And both of the pads on this side were messed up. There were still some pads left there. So I've managed to bridge those over as well. And, you know, toned these sides out to make sure that all of those are there. So the next thing for us to do is to hook this up to the breadboard or to the motherboard and see if we can get this to work. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this heatsink back on. And, you know, I got to give props to the YouTubers that do this kind of board repair where you can actually see what they're doing and whatnot. I just... I don't have everything kind of set in my little work area here with cameras and tools and soldering irons and all that stuff. So, you know, unfortunately, I couldn't show the repair of these capacitors. It's too bad, but you know, I'll get better at it, and next time I will try to make it happen. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this heatsink back on. I think this is now finally ready to run. So I think first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to double check on continuity. Just to make double darn sure that continuity looks good. So this is on the 12 volt rail coming in from the PCI bus. So let's just make sure that the PCI bus is not shorted. And yeah, it's not mega ohms. Great, that's all good. Okay, add some heatsink compound. Would have been nice if I'd have added it to the center as opposed to the end, but it's sort of blobbed out. And hopefully that will, that'll do the job. I think it's not pretty, but it's going to get smushed anyway. There we go. Yeah, well, this one took a little more doing. And, you know, I've got several others that are probably in the same boat. My daughter even mentioned that when she was testing some of them, that some of them actually smoked. So Those will be some fun ones to diagnose. It actually makes it pretty obvious what's wrong. And by the way, the capacitors, well, I don't have them out anymore, but the capacitors that I replaced with, I wasn't really sure, what the capacitors were when I took them out. Typically with filter capacitors like that are big chunky ones like those are 1206 capacitors. On a filter circuit like that, they're, 10 microfarads usually. So that's what I went with. And I had 25 volts, really 16 would have probably worked because it's on a 12 volt rail, but I put 25 volt ones on there. Should be plenty. And I presume that 10 microfarads is correct. There's really no way to know. And I looked for a schematic, couldn't find one. So I took my best shot. All right. So here we go with our new card. Let's, what are we going to do? Yeah, let's plug it into the motherboard. Why not? All right, let's get the power plugged in. I'm gonna go ahead and get this fan wire jammed up in there better. Yeah, it's good. Power plug is in. Card is seated. Turn on our desktop picture there. And let's watch it smoke. Oh, I need the cable. Always forget the HDMI cable. I've got my HDMI cable plugged in now, right here. Okay. We have fan spin here. And we go through a couple of cycles with this motherboard for whatever reason. And I see fan spinning on the card. And I have a picture. Hit F1. And here's the desktop. Let's watch it come up. And there we go. Let's run our test. So far, so good. Turn on our benchmark. hovering at 60, call it 60 frames a second. It's good. That looks to me like we've got a good card. All right, well, just goes to show you can take something that's blown out broken and is working again. Evidently, that's a common failure mode for these cards. That memory controller voltage regulator circuit. Because I saw the same thing on a card that Richard worked on over at Learn Electronics Repair. He had a couple of capacitors. I had not only the same ones that he had blow, but the three additional ones. So all those capacitors had blown. I don't know whether it's heat, surge, who knows? I definitely put 25 volt capacitors in there, so they're definitely probably more higher rated than what was in there. It's hard to know. But yeah, we've got this continues to run 60 frames a second. Looks good. All right, well, I'll add this card to the list. I would say it's fixed. If you want to buy it from me, by all means, go on my website on the comments below and fill out the form that's there, and we'll make a deal. Talk soon.